And so after this presentation, we will have a networking break. But first up is a presentation of our diamond sponsor, Here Technologies. And Here Technologies is a well-known company. For those that don't know, Here Technologies is a world leader in terms of data location. And they also have quite some expertise when it comes to digitization and supply chain management. And so they are the ideal partner for this global fleet conference. I would like to welcome Mr. Graham Wallace. He is the Director of Product Marketing at Here Technologies, and he is going to tell us a little bit more about the digital transformation linked to the supply chain issues. And his presentation is called The Critical Source of Competitive Advantage for the Next 5 to 8 Years. Graham, welcome.
Hello everybody, I hope you're enjoying the content of today's presentation and conference. My name's Graham Wallace and I work as the Product Marketing Director for Here. And today I'm going to talk about managing the transition from supply chain improvement to digital transformation, covering the basic building blocks on the journey and also looking forward to some of the exciting elements that will drive the digital transformation of the industry. Now, the supply chain industry has conventionally been a very fine margin business, and even as new markets have opened up, such as parcel carriers and home delivery, the volatile and seasonal nature of demand has inhibited profitability. More recently, the rapid growth of e-commerce has driven a comprehensive shift in investment priorities. In the case of retailers, this has resulted in reduced investment in conventional stores, resulting in store closures and a pullback from refit and refurbishment activity in favour of substantial investment in online capabilities. For example, changing the warehouse mix to locate more smaller units in closer proximity to the end customer. Now, this rebalancing of priorities has also been evident from shippers, logistics service providers, and in-house and outsourced manufacturer fleets. But in each case, the challenges remain the same, namely how to manage the volatility of the supply chain and to deliver resilience, how to achieve consistently cost-effective solutions, whilst also meeting customer needs by achieving on-time, in-full deliveries, as well as a host of other performance targets, including sales and cost budgets, customer-led KPIs and SLAs, customer satisfaction targets such as net promoter scores, safety targets, and increasingly carbon management objectives. The historic focus on cost-led logistics persists, with something like 31% of logistics firms highlighting cost management as their primary priority, which has presented some difficulties in an environment in which COVID has significantly impacted the global availability of containers. But it's not all been bad news for shippers and 3PL and 4PL organisations, as container and staff shortages have driven profit improvements, as can be seen from Maersk's 2022 earnings, as reported in both Bloomberg and CB Insights. So in 2022, Maersk is expected to report profits of US dollars 29.3 billion dollars, a 64% year-on-year increase. But analysts expect that revenues will fall by more than 70% next year. This type of logistics roller coaster has been replicated by Amazon's online store division, which, according to the Financial Times and CB Insight, saw a 40% year-on-year revenue growth during the pandemic. The fact that this growth has now been reversed completely as a result of the impact of energy prices and inflation on consumer spending has seen Amazon launch Amazon Prime Days in a bid to stimulate demand. But the point is that the fortunes of Maersk and Amazon are but two examples of the wider trends at work across the logistics sector, both of which make planning and investment prioritisation particularly difficult. Issues have also been evident for companies which specialise in last mile delivery, where issues with driver recruitment and hence tight controls on the available driver hours have forced companies to focus on options to maximise the number of drops per hour, using tools such as address management and route optimisation to simplify a driver's life and to improve driver retention. In the home delivery sector, the trade-off between delivering cost efficiencies and customer service is well documented, but with some companies reporting that they lose money on 50% of all their home deliveries. Now, this story is not uncommon, but it does mean that we're likely to see more developments such as the one recently announced by Ahold Delhaize, whereby each customer requiring access to the home delivery service will be required to make a $100 upfront charge and in return would receive 6 free home deliveries, with each subsequent delivery attracting a charge set above the current levels. Ahold Delhaize stresses that it continues to be very happy to support click and collect initiatives, but it also anticipates that the introduction of the annual home delivery charge, which is not that dissimilar to an Amazon Prime account, will reduce home deliveries by at least 50%. Now, it's against this background that supply chain investments being undertaken. Whilst it's reasonably straightforward to identify options to improve short-term operation efficiencies and to set up project teams that focus on delivering performance improvements, life becomes a lot more difficult when it comes to agreeing how process and workflow innovation should be achieved in the medium term, not least because these activities span multiple functions and often many countries. And working to achieve consensus to deliver a series of interlocking components to upgrade an organisation's core capabilities is often the aim, all of which can be summarised in a roadmap. And the roadmap is what provides the critical frame of reference against which competing priorities can be assessed and the sequence in which the various initiatives need to be implemented. What's both interesting and important to note is that many medium-term performance gains can be reliant upon specific core components which are vital to deliver cleaner processes, but which in and of themselves don't necessarily deliver cost savings or improve profitability. One such example is the work required to standardise data feeds so that the information is structured consistently and can be used to analyse performance. We'll be looking at some examples of medium-term initiatives in a bit more detail later on. When it comes to longer-term improvements, the scale of activity required to support new ways of working, such as the wholesale implementation of carbon tracking and the shift to completely new fleets of vehicles, or substantial process automation to implement no-touch logistics. These opportunities may involve investment in new business models and changes to the supplier ecosystem alongside extensive cost to serve analysis and increasingly the use of new pricing models. So let's have a look at some of the options that can be used to deliver performance improvements, starting with a number of short-term solutions. A very simple but effective option to deliver short-term cost savings is to optimise vehicle routing and vehicle scheduling, taking into account the range of delivery drops that are needed, the current configuration of the vehicle fleet, and the availability of drivers. When companies have not previously implemented this type of comprehensive solution, the gains can be really impressive, delivering cost savings and efficiency gains linked to better routing and scheduling, as well as increasing network capacity utilisation rates. But even when companies have already implemented some form of routing and scheduling solution, Here, address management and improved connectivity to driver apps can also deliver cost and efficiency savings. As we have seen, last mile operations can be both costly and operationally difficult to manage. Very often, our customers are faced with the challenge of improving driver retention and are looking to make their drivers' lives easier by providing apps that make it easier to find delivery addresses. Similarly, better routing and scheduling solutions make it easier to drive between the various drop-off points, avoiding traffic where possible, and picking up returns en route to maximise the effectiveness of the available driver hours. Reducing hassle and complexity really does improve driver retention, with the resultant savings in recruitment and training costs providing benefits to the company. Many of the compliance requirements, for example, meeting customer KPIs and service level agreements, can also be converted into automated processes to enable attention to be focused on the exceptions and allocating time to resolving customer problems. More recent opportunities to deliver cost and efficiency savings have opened up as it's become possible to track shipments of goods and services from multiple sources across multiple carriers and multiple modes of transport to assemble a very complete and consistent picture of where stock is in the supply chain. Now, this is particularly difficult where large manufacturers work with multiple LSPs and fleet service providers, as permissions are often needed to consolidate the available data into one clear and consistent data source. Accordingly, real-time shipment visibility is becoming a critical requirement for LSPs to offer their customers, not least because it provides better information regarding the arrival date for stock deliveries, which should, once all the data is complete, accurate and trusted, create the option to reduce stock on hand that enables production facilities to operate at near full capacity. Now, these types of initiatives require extensive cross-functional working, as well as liaison with third-party suppliers and carriers to achieve consistency in data standards, and they all take time to implement. That said, the benefits can be impressive, particularly when it comes to tracking accountability for damaged goods. The core area of focus linked to improvements in asset tracking and end-to-end visibility of the supply chain is definitely improving visibility of the predicted estimated time of arrival. Not only can this be used to track and improve stock management, but it can also be used to assess carrier performance, providing inputs into contract negotiations. So this information is increasingly being used to also drive location-based analytics and machine learning solutions covering carrier selection and route selection focused on the predictability of arrival times to meet SLAs and KPIs, not least because this information also helps meet the requirement to improve supply chain resilience. But perhaps the most important benefit that this type of solution offers to customers is that improved visibility of predictive ETAs reduces the volume of customer service calls and helps to improve customer satisfaction and carriers' net promoter scores. So this type of cross-function initiative can be difficult to implement, but it does indicate that improvements in the core logistics capability of a business can deliver significant cost and efficiency savings, even if it appears that all the cost-saving options and core logistic processes have been streamlined and automated, and that there's nothing left to achieve. There are certainly cost savings still available to be tapped. Whilst these cross-function initiatives can be difficult to get underway, the key is to assemble the roadmap covering the main options which are being considered and to drill into the specific steps that will be needed to implement the vision. Now, some of these activities can be undertaken in-house, whilst others may require the support of third-party specialists and IT integration experts. One example of a medium-term initiative which is being undertaken to deliver cost and efficiency savings by one of our customers is to segment their fleet requirements to create specific vehicle specifications to meet their specific delivery constraints. Factors such as terrain, taking into account mountainous and flat routes, the extremes of hot and cold, urban and rural routes, and the routes selected for outsourced contracts have all been taken into consideration, with the net result that they've selected 27 different types of vehicle to achieve the most cost-effective delivery profile, as well as meeting their carbon management obligations. Similarly, we are seeing more evidence of supplier selection taking into account not only the cost of goods, but also the reliability of delivery schedules and the need to respond to increases in demand, as well as tracking the embedded carbon. Here, systems and solutions are used to provide this core information and are increasingly being used as part of the decision-making process by many vendors, which is being used to determine whether to use near sourcing as a critical component in their supplier selection process and their supplier mix to improve resilience. So cost, resilience, and carbon management are all factors driving this type of decision, as is the need to improve the responsiveness of the supply chain to meet customer needs. The HERE Professional Services team has experience of building comprehensive roadmaps which integrate many of the elements which have been touched on to date. This activity combines business requirements as well as software development and configuration to develop a robust implementation plan which progressively builds an organisation's capabilities to improve supply chain performance. Some of the more critical requirements, which we've already touched on, include the data engineering and data science which is required to build a consistent data environment which can support process automation and process management, as well as management by exception and in-depth supply chain analytics. And it is this analytics capability which will enable supply chain teams to identify opportunities to deliver incremental cost savings. The location dimension is particularly valuable because it adds an extra dimension to the data, enabling an analyst to identify where there are anomalies, which in turn enables the operations teams to drill into the data to establish how and where best practice exists and where it can be used as a benchmark to improve the performance of other areas of the supply chain. The thinking behind creating a roadmap is that it identifies the components that were required to support an optimized end-to-end supply chain solution, and it also helps to determine the sequence in which the various components can be incorporated into an organization's core capabilities. In addition to the data being cleansed and applying some data science, the teams can also consider the buy to build options. The trade-offs such as being able to develop in-house solutions to specifically cater for the precise needs of a business have to be offset against the availability of scarce in-house IT resource and the availability for potential lead times of in-house development to extend. And there are several dimensions to this decision-making process, including whether a more rapid deployment of an external solution can deliver more cost savings more quickly, and the benefits of providing users with more detailed information faster, which invariably enables teams to develop more complex specifications for the next iteration of the implementation cycle. So there's a trade-off, and these insights can also be used to influence the development priorities of vendors. And it's worth considering whether the benefits of an outsourced SaaS or platform-based solution needs to be assessed from a cash flow perspective. Development companies like here usually provide sandbox facilities to enable users to test and develop their solutions, with usage only being paid for as and when systems go live. And this enables costs to be profiled in line with revenue generation, whereas in-house development invariably requires longer in-house development and testing, longer lead times, and also upfront costs. Looking at the overall structure of the digital infrastructure required to support an optimized end-to-end supply chain, there are a myriad of interlocking components. In some cases, these are capable of handling millions of deliveries every month and processing billions of transactions every year. And whilst I'm a great fan of the It Just Works school of IT, the reality is that pure processing power and even integration is no longer sufficient to deliver a best-in-breed service. Rather, segment leaders are drilling into their data and asking the right questions to deliver the right insight. This is particularly important, and it's worth reflecting that it takes a combination of experience and intuition to spot the opportunities to unlock cost savings. And these data analyst roles are now some of the most highly paid in the industry. So what I've hopefully done during the course of this presentation is shown how the journey from operational improvement to supply chain innovation to more comprehensive digital transformation could take place, and that there are still cost-saving opportunities to be made by working cross-functionally. Now, some people might think that we squeezed out all the costs and that there's no further scope to improve the performance of supply chain and logistic performance. That's really not the case. There are many, many opportunities by using existing components, dovetailing them into the existing capabilities, using new methods of data analysis, and interrogating and working with KPIs and service level agreements to set cut-offs to drive exception management and to improve performance. That will deliver cost savings going forwards. There are also many, many exciting opportunities that focus on the use of emerging technologies such as DevOps and AI ops and machine learning. That will come to the fore in due course. But the key is to have a roadmap that actually pulls everything together, that sets out how the data is going to be managed and how the data is going to be assembled, so that you know exactly what's going to be delivered at each step and what each of the steps in the future is going to be dependent on going forwards. And it is this cohesive vision with a very, very solid roadmap that is going to be the critical factor that's going to shape the performance of an individual business's supply chain. Collectively, working together with outsourced providers, IT integrators, vendors, data managers, there's plenty of scope to deliver increased cost savings and to take the supply chain well and truly into the next decade and the next 20 years, so that there are still efficiencies to be achieved.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Graham, and thank you, Here Technologies, for the support in this global fleet conference, the virtual experience.